The main theme of Star Wars is that compassion is the good side, fear is the bad side. It came from my experience in college, and I became very, very fascinated in anthropology. And I became very interested in how societies govern themselves, grow, become something. You can't really have a society unless you have a common belief system. And then there are people who are very greedy or afraid. The thing about people who are greedy is that they fear. Their whole soul is drenched in fear. And they're, first of all, they're afraid they're not going to get, afraid they're not going to get all the things they want: power, wealth, fame, and they'll do anything to get it. Then when they get it, they're afraid they're going to lose it. So they live in fear their whole life. So remember that about people who are not nice. They live in fear. Fear is not a happy thing to live with. You're always afraid that somebody's going to take your stuff away from you. And it's the same thing with your life. And it's the same thing with the people you love. You have to understand that the reality of nature and God and life is that things come and things go. They do not stay in your life. And you have to learn to accept the fact that it is a continuum that you're just a part of, and the things will be there and then they won't be there. So enjoy them and love them while they're there, and then be happy that they've gone someplace else. But you have to decide that you can't hold on to people, because the pain of losing somebody or losing something is your pain. It's not the pain of, that person. It's your pain of losing that person being with you. And you have to be able to overcome that. Otherwise, you just suffer your whole life. It is something you also learn with your children, because there is a point in your life where you have to let them go and be on their own. And it's a very hard thing to do. You're starting to reach that period. And it's a great consternation from your parents that you're going to be off to college, you're going to be having your own life, you're going to have your own house, and you will constantly hear, why don't you call me more? Why don't you come home for this function or that function? And it's, it's a natural thing, but the more you hold on, the more painful it is. And if you just let people go, as I say, if you hold on to if you have a bird in your hand and you hold it too tight because you don't want it to go, eventually you'll crush it. So the important part is to let it go and fly off and be on its own. It'll come back, and the love will be even stronger. In my study of anthropology, which is basically the study of different religions and different ways of thinking of things, my kids ask me, what are we? What am I? I say, well, we're Methodist Buddhists. And you discover in anthropology that, there's, one way, which I've said, which is when I was about, 7 years old, the age of my daughter, I asked my mother, if there's so many different religions, why is there only one God? And she couldn't answer that. But if there's only one God, you realize that the religions are a manifestation of man or woman, but the God is still there. It's just we don't know what it is or what it looks like or what it is. But the one thing it has constantly done, and in all religions, is God is love.
How do you think the changes in the fights for racial justice will impact the Star Wars universe going forward?
I don't know. I've kind of lost control of Star Wars, so it's going off in a different path than what I intended. But the first 6 are very much mine and my philosophy. And I think that philosophy sort of goes beyond any particular time, because it's based on history, it's based on philosophy, it's based on a lot of things. And the first 3 basically tell you how a democracy turns into a dictatorship, and you end up with a tyrant, the emperor. It's a very important now where we are now in our political history. The other part was that in there, it's like, I purposely, all of the various colors and shapes of the aliens and everything that live in that world, it's a normal situation. There's no real discrimination. The only discrimination is against robots. And we haven't really reached that period yet. And I'm sure the robots will be able to overcome it because they don't have the same feelings. But it really shows you in terms of the way the politics are and the way things are, you know, how to fight those ideas. And a lot of it really has to do with overcoming fear. You know, the thing that brought that, and also the movies, you know, the thing with Anakin is that he started out a great kid. He was very compassionate. So the issue is how did he turn bad? And he went to the dark side by, the Jedis are not supposed to have attachments. They can love people, they can do it, but they can't attach. That's the problem when you get in the world of fear. Once you're attached to something, then you become afraid of losing it. And when you became afraid of losing it, then you turn to the dark side and you want to hold on to it. And that's what Anakin's issue was ultimately, is he wanted to hold on to his wife, who he knew he had a premonition that she was going to die. He didn't know how to stop it. So he went to the dark side to find, in mythology and everything, they go to Hades and you talk to the devil and the devil says, this is what you do. And basically you sell your soul to the devil. When you do that, then you're afraid and you're on the dark side and you fall off the golden path of compassion because you are greedy. You want to hold on to something that you love, and as a result, you turn bad.
So the thing about that is, George, you're saying with the movies, there's the time, it's not of the time, but the lessons are timeless, right?
Yeah, they're timeless. They've been around for thousands of years. They're based on ancient mythology. Mythology was designed ultimately to give a society the tools they need to be a society, which means they have to have a common belief system. They have to believe in the same gods. They have to believe who their leaders are. They have to believe what their history is. They have to believe who their heroes are. Those are the things that combine to make a society. If you don't have those things, then you don't have a society. The interesting thing that we're going through now is the United States was a conglomerate of a lot of different ideas and things, and it was the first beginning of globalization where we began to respect others who look differently, who think differently, who have different gods. But at the end, you have to have that cohesion. And we were beginning to get it for the whole world. We now split apart, but I think we'll get there someday. But that is the most important thing, is that you respect other people, you respect what they're doing, and you realize that we're part of a symbiotic relationship, meaning that we all help each other. That's the ecology of what we're in. If you take some of the gears out of the watch, it won't work anymore. And taking some of the gears out of the world means it won't work anymore. We know that from extinction of animals. We know it from global warming. We know that we have to all be one in order to go forward. A lot of people don't like that idea. They hate it and they're fighting against it. But we have to do that in order to survive on this planet. And there's only two ways to survive in the world. One is to adapt, which is to, if you're a fish, you grow legs and you get on land, or you migrate. And migrating for us, I mean, adapting is, we got a lot of adapting to do, but we are trying to do it. But the other one is to migrate. And if you're living in a pond and the pond is drying up and you're going to die with it, you have to learn to migrate to another pond. What we're trying to do now is to migrate to another planet. And you say, well, what's that going to do? Because the sun's going to go away pretty soon, a couple million years. And now we only have a couple million years to figure out how to get from our planets, which we will soon be on Mars and some of the other planets, to another galaxy. I mean, not another galaxy, I'm sorry, to another solar system, one that's not dying. And that's a hard thing to do. Right now, it's completely impossible because you have to go faster than the speed of light. But unless we figure out how to do that, we're not going to survive, because eventually this sun is going to go out, our planet's going to die, and everything with it. So you have to think long term. So it's like far, far away in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago. This is the long, long time ago. And we have to go and catch up so that we can, so the humans especially can survive. The planet will survive. I mean, eventually it'll blow up and it's just a bunch of rocks, but at the same time, it will not survive. And you have to understand that. And that's part of letting go. But at the same time, that's millions of years away. It's like the grasshopper and the ant, where the grasshopper is collecting, I mean, the ants are collecting food for the winter, and the grasshopper doesn't do it. And therefore, when the snow comes, the grasshopper has to come and ask for help because he was making fun of them. But it's that you have to prepare for the future. And that's basically what humankind can do, as opposed to a lot of other life forms. The only other life forms that can go through, can fly through space and survive on all kinds of strange worlds are microorganisms. They're everywhere, and there are trillions of them. They outnumber humans, and even in your body, there's more microorganisms than there are human cells. So you got to say, and that's where the idea of the secret, that's where the idea of the wills come from. The wills are microorganisms, and they help create the energy, which is what mitochondria do, which are in your cells. That's the energy that makes your cells divide, which makes life. And they feed on life. That's what the force is. The force is life. Being a hobby architect, building buildings, and at the same time working on a museum, which is a museum of narrative art, which is saying that ultimately art in the beginning and still tells a narrative of society. That's how people come together and have a common belief system, because in the beginning, and even a lot of places now, people don't know how to read or write. And so you can give speeches, but it doesn't resonate that much. But especially in ancient times, if you go into a city, they had statues of their heroes, they have mosaics of their religion, they had statues of the leader who's ever running the country. Those are all things that told people in a very emotional way, it's done emotionally, not intellectually, that this is who we are. And it's kind of a controversial idea, but I got it through anthropology and I believe in it. And so I'm building a museum that really is based on the aspirations of a society. And everybody says, well, you got comics in there, comic art. I said, that's what people believe in the United States. And illustration, Norman Rockwell, Frida Kahlo, these are things that people believe in, that's where aspirations are. And so it sort of tells you a lot about a society. And so the museum I'm building is sort of a way of connecting with what the society believes in. It's especially, I think, relevant today when we're fracturing all that up. In the end, it's, I believe it's all got to come together and be homogenized because we're the human race. We're not a bunch of separate races. We're one race. And the sooner we understand that and begin to accept the sort of eccentricity of other races and other societies, the more we'll grow and become smarter people, but also the conflict that we have will go away. I'd like to just say one thing that is important for 12-year-olds that I was taught. I had a mentor who was a very wise man, and he said, go through life and follow your bliss, which means follow what you enjoy. And that's what I did. My father wanted me to go work in a store that he owned and become a merchant. I did not want to do that. And it was a big deal between us when I said, I'm going to go do something else. And I found by exploring through college and other things, what I love to do, which is to, ultimately I wanted to be an illustrator, then I wanted to be an anthropologist, and then I went to film school on accident and basically found my bliss. I found the thing that I loved more than anything. It's much more important than going out and trying to get a job and make, we're the opposite. She likes to make money. That's her bliss. That's what I like, to make things and movies and things like that. When I started, nobody who was trying to go, was in film school, would get into the film business. It just was impossible. It was closed out to everybody. And fortunately, I came in the 60s when the people who started the studios were all 80, 90 years old, and they were selling the studios. So I got a break, but I was doing what I loved, and my friends who were also of that period were also doing what they loved, which is to make movies. None of us expected to make any money at it. We were lucky if we could even get a job. And we became very successful because we loved what we do. We loved it, and it makes life so much easier. And no matter what it is, if you're like to do pottery or like to do, write things, or you like to do whatever you want to do, if you enjoy it, you're halfway home. You will make money because you enjoy it, and that means you're good at it, and that means you'll make money. Yeah, you might not live in a giant place. Look, I've got a house. It's a giant house. It's too big. I never wanted a big giant house, but I got one now because I can afford it. But it's no different than a regular house. So if you do what you love, you will be able to make a living, you'll be able to eat, you'll be able to have a car, and you'll be able to live nicely, and you'll be happy. Be persistent. Don't let anybody put you down.
Please like, subscribe, and comment on the video. May the Force be with you.
Impressive. Most impressive.